Little alien girl ate scraps like a dog. One human saw a princess instead. The cargo bay of Station Kepler 442 reeked of industrial lubricants and unwashed bodies. Captain Sarah Chun had seen enough of the galaxy's darker corners to know that desperation had a smell sharp, acrid, tinged with fear. But nothing had prepared her for the sight that greeted her in the shadowy corner behind the loading mechs. A small figure crouched on all fours, her pale blue skin marred with grime and bruises. The alien child, for that's what she clearly was, picked through scattered food scraps with trembling fingers, stuffing whatever seemed edible into her mouth with the frantic urgency of someone who didn't know where their next meal would come from. Her oversized eyes, a deep violet that seemed to hold galaxies, darted nervously between the scraps and the approaching human. "Hey there, little one," Sarah said softly, crouching down to make herself less imposing. The child froze, a piece of moldy bread halfway to her mouth, ready to bolt. The station's chief administrator, a heavy-set Centaurian named Vex, huffed behind Sarah. "Don't waste your time, Captain. That's just one of the Zephyrian refugees. Her species is ... feral. They're better suited to scavenging than civilization. The Galactic Council classifies them as Class D sentients, barely above animals." Sarah's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice gentle as she addressed the child. "What's your name, sweetheart?" The girl's head tilted, confusion flickering across her delicate features. She made a series of soft chirping sounds, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "She doesn't speak standard," Vex explained dismissively. "Probably doesn't even understand it. The Zephyrians communicate through primitive sound patterns. Her parents were killed in the Omega Sector raid 6 months ago. She's been living in the ventilation systems, stealing food scraps. 6 months?" Sarah's heart clenched. This child had been surviving alone for half a year, treated like vermin by the very beings who should have protected her. She slowly reached into her pack and pulled out a ration bar, unwrapping it carefully. The child's eyes fixed on the food with desperate hunger, but she remained motionless, as if expecting a trap. "It's okay," Sarah whispered, placing the bar on the floor between them. "It's for you." The girl inched forward, snatched the bar, and retreated to her corner. She ate with mechanical efficiency, never taking her eyes off Sarah. But something in her gaze had changed wariness, mixed with the faintest glimmer of hope. Over the next 3 days, Sarah found excuses to return to the cargo bay. Each time she brought food, water, and clean cloths. Gradually, the child began to trust her. Sarah learned that her name was approximately Whisper of Dawn in Zephyrian, though she began thinking of her simply as Dawn. On the 4th day, Sarah discovered Dawn had been creating something in her hiding spot. Using discarded wire, broken glass, and scraps of colored metal, the child had constructed an intricate sculpture, a representation of a stellar nursery, complete with swirling gas clouds and newborn stars. The artistry was breathtaking, displaying a level of spatial reasoning and aesthetic sensibility that Sarah had rarely seen in any species. "She is an artist," Sarah breathed, examining the delicate construction. Vex, who had accompanied her on this visit, scoffed. "Random scavenging. Behavior. These creatures collect shiny objects like corvids." But Sarah saw something else entirely. She saw intelligence, creativity, and a soul that refused to be dimmed despite unimaginable hardship. That evening, she accessed her personal files and began researching Zephyrian culture, the real culture, not the sanitized Galactic Council reports. What she found horrified her. The Zephyrians have been renowned throughout the galaxy as master architects and philosophers. Their cities have been living works of art, grown rather than built, incorporating the natural harmony of their homeworld. They had been pacifists, which made them easy targets when the resource wars began. The survivors had been scattered across the galaxy, their culture systematically erased by those who found it easier to classify them as primitives rather than acknowledge the genocide they had failed to prevent. The next morning, Sarah made a decision that would change both their lives forever. "Dawn," she said, kneeling beside the child who now approached her without fear. Would you like to come with me? To my ship? The girl's violet eyes searched Sarah's face, and in that moment, something passed between them, understanding that transcended language barriers. Dawn nodded slowly. As they walked through the station corridors, Sarah ignored the stares and whispered comments. She saw the reactions, confusion from some, disgust from others. They saw a human woman walking alongside what they believed was a feral child, but Sarah saw something entirely different. She saw a princess walking through the ruins of her kingdom, her head held high, despite everything that had been taken from her. She saw a survivor of a proud civilization, carrying within her the memories and dreams of an entire people. She saw potential that others were blind to, simply because they refused to look beyond their own prejudices. On her ship, Sarah gave Dawn her own quarters and access to the fabrication bay. Within weeks, Dawn was creating architectural designs that made seasoned engineers weep with their beauty. She learned Standard with remarkable speed, revealing a sharp intellect that had been hidden behind trauma and malnutrition. Months later, when the Galactic Council finally acknowledged their error and began reclassifying Zephyrians as a class of Kasakasi civilization, Dawn had already begun designing a new city for her scattered people, a place where refugees could become citizens, where survivors could heal, and where a nearly lost culture could bloom again. Sarah often thought about that first. Day in the cargo bay when others saw a scavenging animal, but she chose to see a princess in exile. It wasn't that she was particularly noble or enlightened. She had simply remembered something that the galaxy seemed determined to forget. That dignity was not something that could be lost, only overlooked. And sometimes, it only took one person willing to look closer to change everything.